Hi, my name is Karen Fabian and I'm the founder of Bare Bones Yoga, and thanks for taking a minute to watch my YouTube channel. So I focus all my videos on the anatomy of the practice because that's really where my passion lies. And one of the things that I noticed, especially recently as teachers have been doing a lot of studying as we all are home most of the time and our studios are closed because of the COVID outbreak, it's something that's come to me as I've been chatting with teachers, this understanding that teachers are really out there trying to make their own kind of learning journey when it comes to the study of anatomy. And what I'm finding in my conversations with teachers is that their learning is really all over the place. And this is really not anyone's fault. It's really just a function of what the industry has available to teachers when they're done with their basic training, their 200-hour training. And at that point, if they realize, I have this gap in understanding anatomy, they're really kind of out there on their own. Sure, they can take a 300-hour training or a 500-hour training, but many times teachers will do that and they'll come out of that training maybe feeling like, yeah, that was a great training, but I still have this learning gap. And so one of the things that I've shared with some teachers is a process for understanding anatomy. And this really is kind of the bedrock of all my signature programs. That is a process for understanding this complex subject. And I wanted to share with you the components of that process today. So if you think about anatomy, of course, as a really broad subject, and that's why it can be so kind of overwhelming for teachers to think about learning it, especially when they've started teaching and they realize, God, these cues I'm giving, I really don't understand the why behind them, the anatomy behind them. I really can't answer student questions. And they now start to go out there, they buy a book, they take a course, they maybe take a training, as I was mentioning before, and they're kind of just searching for what are the pieces I'm supposed to be learning. So let me share with you what some of those pieces are. So when I teach anatomy in my signature programs, what I focus first on are the anatomical actions in the body. And those actions always occur from joints. So we're not talking about muscular actions at this point, specifically at the level of the muscle. We're talking about anatomical actions, so things that occur in the planes of the body. So one example of this might be shoulder flexion. So here I'm demonstrating shoulder flexion and I'm describing it as it occurs from the joint. Now, of course, there are muscles that generate that movement, skeletal muscles, but first we're going to start out with just understanding what those anatomical actions are. And this is already an area where teachers can get tripped up because in our yoga vernacular, or what I call yoga speak, we say lots of different things. We might say reach your arms up high, or we might say extend to the sky, or extend your arms, or straighten your elbows. There can be a whole host of ways that we describe it. But when we're looking at the anatomy, we need to focus on the anatomical terminology. And so here, shoulder flexion is the correct action to describe it. So anatomical actions, and there's a whole bunch more, that's just one example, is a place to start. And then from anatomical actions, what I share with teachers is a deep dive into anatomical position. So here I'm standing in anatomical position, and you might say, well, why would you want to study that? Well, what you'll find when you take this deeper dive into this kind of hallmark of positions in anatomy is you'll realize there are a lot of qualities of anatomical position that you would want to cue to in the poses. So again, I'm not going to go into that detail. I just want to share with you that's a topic unto itself. And then from there, going into the key bones of the body, and then from there, going into the key muscles of the body, and then from there, going into fascia and the fascial network, and then from there, going into the types of contractions muscles make, and muscles in poses. So this is where the rubber really meets the road, and we start looking at things like, different positions that we're taking with the body and what muscles are creating the actions. And that's kind of another signature feature of my program that I really focus teachers on understanding the concentric action of the muscles rather than every possible thing the muscles can do. So it's really all about this constant kind of refocusing on what you need to know as a yoga teacher. And then from there, going into different applications, like what happens when someone's in Warrior One and they look like this, or what happens in tree pose when they look like this. What could I possibly say to help them, and how can I use all of what I already know by going down this very systematic path to help inform the cues that I use in those different scenarios. And then we go into different things about assisting and red flags to look for, and all as we're doing this, the teachers are able to understand why they're using the cues they're using, because all of that underlying knowledge has already been gained. So you can see it's a very systematic process, and as I explain in my anatomy manual, which literally goes through step by step by step, this is one illustration of that knowledge, but there's only so much that a book can do for you when it comes to your learning. So really the signature program I offer teachers is my Blueprint Learning Program, and that's an online course with all of the information that you go through, and it's supplemented by live coaching calls where we get on the phone together on Zoom and we go into all of the application of this to the poses. And that's really where teachers just amplify their learning, because they have that interaction one-on-one with me. So here's a couple things for you to do. If you're interested in just starting out with the manual, you can just go on my website and purchase it at any time. And the website is barebonesyoga.com. What I would highly recommend for you, if you're in the least bit interested in really upping your learning potential, is to get on the wait list for that Blueprint Learning Program. And that's right on the website homepage, so super easy to do. And getting on the wait list just is kind of like raising your hand in this virtual space and saying, hey, I'm interested, tell me more. And then the next time I open enrollment, which I do usually once a month, maybe once every other month, I'll let you know first, because there's always limited seats when I open the doors for enrollment. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I really hope that if you have any questions, you'll take a moment and send me an email or comment here on this post. And I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Namaste.